Amanda, can you sign Amanda?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'll take that. I'll take that.
What are these smiley faces?
Oh, it's just the pictures and the Funko Pop. It's on this, you know?
Wait, they're the what?
And toys. You know, the toys that be in the box.
Yeah.
Funko Pops. Yeah. I just didn't want to carry the whole box in the box of the family.
But why do you draw the smiley
We're not doing
faces?
all those other ones, continue.
Why do you draw the smiley faces?
Just so that way you don't sign it here. That way you know the sign there on the clipboard.
Oh,
Yeah. Gotta be creative.
Can I take a
sometimes.
quick photo
Can
with you,
use
picture?
marker? Can you just say marker over here?
Huh? Huh?
Working? Is yours working?
I don't think mine is working, but I can project. Here. No, I can project. I'm Esther Zuckerman. I'm moderating this Q&A with director Helena Rain.
Yes.
Maria Bakalova. And Myha'la Harold. Well, so excited to talk with you guys about this. Such a fun film. I wanted to start by asking you, Helena, how did you start assembling this insane cast?
Yeah, I mean, Maria was one of the first people to come on board of this film. I saw her in Borat and I thought, who is this creature? What is this? What am I witnessing here? And I fell totally in love. I really had to chase her. She was really hard to get, very popular. I saw her in the industry. No, you were. And she was getting already a lot of offers, you know, but I mean, it was love at first sight. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I
to
love
me,
it too.
it was love at first sight. I also met your mom in our very first conversation,
you did,
which made it even more deep. No, so yeah, we are so lucky with this cast. I think it just rests on the shoulders of the actors. The actors are the whole thing in my eyes, and I couldn't be more proud.
Maria and Myha'la, I wanted to ask you both, what were your first impressions of your characters sort of coming into it?
I have to say that I've been a fan of Helena's work prior bodies because she did this movie called Instinct that went to Locarno, and I'm from Bulgaria, Southeastern Europe, and I've been watching lots of film festivals and movies that have been selected out there, and it's been like, wow, 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 it's so sensitive, it's so feminine, it's so dark, animalistic, as she likes to say. So I was like, wow, this movie is a 24 production, and it's written by a theatrical playwright called Myha'la. So it's gonna be something that I definitely want to dive into. And I read the script and I saw the character B that I've been supposed to read for, and I was like, this creature is so far away from me. Will I manage to pull this off? And if I do, that's gonna be because of Helena and her range and the way that she can guide you. So I wanted to try to challenge myself to be somebody that is like extremely private and quiet and thinks a lot before she says something. Yeah. But she was so mysterious and somebody that I personally wanted to get to know. And why is she keeping all of these secrets? Because it seems like she has nothing to hide. She prioritizes the most important thing, and that's her family. But yeah, that's what I thought. Why? What's her motive to do that? And why is she in this relationship with Sophie, which is the complete opposite of her? But I wanted to try to find out, and I think we pretty much did. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I know this type A crusty bitch. I know her. And like, you know, we all have, I feel like a lot of people are like, you're the Jordan of the group. You know what I mean? I was like, I know this person. And I too identified with
the sort of problem-solving, go-getting, fixer, aggressively protecting her friends, even though it looks crazy attitude. That was relatable to me. And I'm not a big horror person. I don't like gory stuff. I'm quite faint. So I was like, can I do this film without being scared the whole time? So that was gonna be like a fun new thing for me. Of course, everyone in the cast, Helena, A24, our castmates, it was candy. I could not resist. And when I read the script, I was like, what is this? Like, it's one of those things that you read, you're like, what genre is this? How are they gonna pull this off? So the challenge of doing something so genre inclusive, I'll say. Genre bending is yes, but I would say like we sort of, the script at least on the page, it sort of just somehow seamlessly weaved itself through every single genre. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm so into that. It sounds like a great challenge. So I was like, yes, please let me do your film.
What was the process once you got this cast together of sort of establishing these relationships, this sort of tight-knit but fractured group?
I think for me it was very important to let all of them know that I want to collaborate and not just tell them what to do at all, because I used to be an actress myself, I'm retired, and I just, know that it's really important to feel responsible and not just a puppet. And also I'm 46 and I'm trying to make a film about youth culture, so I better ask them if, whatever's in the script makes any sense at all. And so they contributed a lot to the script, and there's a lot of improvisation, but also they had really specific ideas, and there was always a room for all of us to collaborate. And I think I come from the theater, that's all I know and do. So I just said I'm gonna want to make you into a little theater ensemble, if that's okay with all of you. And so we all really prepared ourselves like soldiers, so that in the moment we could let go and there would be space for ideas in the moment, on set, and improvisation.
What was that like for you guys as actors in the project?
I think wonderful for both of us.
It's a dream when your director says I'm your collaborator. Especially as young actors, I think, at least for me, sometimes it feels like you have to prove yourself, even though you've been given the job. And Helena from the get was like, I trust you, I trust whatever you're gonna bring to the table. This is an open dialogue. We wanna bring as much of you to this script and this movie as possible. And so that builds like a really strong trust, and I think it makes us as actors and human beings feel appreciated and safe. And so then we could like rip each other to shreds, like in the process.
Yeah, we felt heard and seen, and she gave us space. At the same time, she was still the captain of the ship, because if the idea didn't work, at least we tried, and that was the most precious part of it all. Plus, Myha'la and I both are coming from theater as well.
Yeah.
So for us, working in a sense of like, this is gonna be a play, was the best, honestly.
What did you guys have to contribute in terms of like the Gen Z young person sort of opinions on the script and on the material? Like, what were those conversations like that, Helena, you were talking about?
Well, of course we had Sarah de Lab, who is absolute genius, who I died to work again with, and she's very young, so that of course helps, that she already on the page, as you always say, has already a very strong connection to younger people. But then, we would always ask and just check, like, is this really how you guys would say it? And then little words would change, or whole scenes would change, and we would also really ask for rehearsal time. Of course, it's always hard because people are all over the world shooting things, and it's hard to get them together. But we did get a rehearsal time at the location, and so there was room for discussion, and again, there was always also room for improvisation. I don't like to say cut, so in the beginning that makes them a little uncomfortable, but I just let them, I just don't say anything, and then you get the most beautiful moments, because and also we do very long takes. My cameraman, or if you call it DP, I took him from the Netherlands with me, and he's pretty insane. He did a movie called Monos, and you can literally see that he jumped with the actors into a waterfall, which is kind of like unsafe, but he did that anyway. So he's like a war photographer. He's one of them. The dance scene, for instance, you were basically with him in a space for a long time, and everybody knew what was going to happen, sort of. and then the rest we give freedom. And if the actors are up for that and they feel very safe, I feel that you get the most beautiful Cassavetes-like results.
Yeah, I mean, what was that like for you, sort of these long takes, working with the DP in this, and I also want to hear about the location, like this space.
Yeah, the mansion was cool. It was creepy and alive, and there was a lot of like rodent friends and like it was as much alive as we were in the space, and it was as scary as the film is. Like once it was dark, but it was nice because we filmed in one location, so we really like engaged with the space, and it meant something every time we moved around in it. Maria mentioned both myself and she come from, oh my god, grammar. Maria and I both come from theater backgrounds.
It's because you're talking with us, so we're both like handicapped as far as language.
We both come from a theater background, so I was super excited when I saw like 13, 15 page long scenes, which you do not see in film, because people are like, I'm exhausted, we should just cut and start again. But the benefit to that, especially in a film like this, dealing with relationships like this, is it gives you so much time to really deal with the other person and then make it 4 people or 6 people, and you're just like the nuance and the severity of each relationship, you're constantly having to be aware of all of those things. And then add our 6th cast member, Jasper, our DP. He truly was like another person in the room. He was that active with us. The camera moved wherever, whenever. We never did any sort of traditional coverage.
No.
Which by the end of it was exhausting. But it's so worth it, and Helena is right, because you do end up capturing, you know, the spontaneity and magic that is something that really is happening to us. And you get past the first, you know, few lines of dialogue, and then it's like, we're just going at each other, and it does feel so real. And you do that enough times that it's like, yeah, it's real.
I think the advantage of being a stage actor is that you every night, especially if you have a bigger role, you go through the whole thing, right? And it's almost like an exorcism. It's such a ritual, and it's so with film, I'm not a good film actress at all, because I get like really distracted, you know, it's so technical, I never understand what to do. So I want to try to create the same sort of circumstance that we, the 3 of us, really are, you know, familiar with, because we all have that background. But where you get, yeah, it feels more real, and you actually go through something without it becoming too real. But I mean, they always joke that they trauma bonded. Didn't become too unhealthy, but it was real, you know. And I think you see that in film, even though it's a light film. It's not, let's not be pretentious, but you know, there are a lot of interesting chemistry things going on in this film, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, Maria and Myha'la, can you talk about that? I mean, I don't want to say trauma, but the bonding process that you guys went through.
Well, the trauma definitely was the weather, the atmosphere that we were filming at, because we were completely covered in blood, mud, and like tons of water. On top of everything, you have a huge machine of wind creation. Yeah, that transforms somehow the rain into like little rocks that are hitting you so hard. And when you go through this every single night for 20-25 days, it's like, okay, here we go again. Let's get through this.
And we're sleep deprived because we get to set at like 6 p.m. and then we leave set at like 4 a.m. and then you sleep all day, so you never really see the sun, and then you go into this like actual hurricane, because reality, there's no VFX in this movie, like it's all real, you know what I mean? So we were actually experiencing that storm.
Yeah.
But real for real.
True. I mean, we had a very limited amount of shooting days, which is of course super challenging, especially because my first film was just a psychological thriller in a prison. It's just people talking, okay, you know. But this is, there's blood, there's special effects, there's, you know, there's so much going on. So it was very, very, very intense. But I think at all times, of course, I wanted for them to be safe, especially knowing what it feels like to be in that position.
Yeah.
But so we did try to do that, but yeah, at the same time it was intense, and in the film, of course, it pays off, even though sometimes it was rough for us.
In reality, we were safe. We were safe because we had like huge heaters between takes and everything. But at the end of the day, when you know that it's during the night and it feels scary, for God's sake. It felt scary.
Yeah, when you go through something with people, that's how you like bond. We have a common enemy that is that storm simulator.
I wanted to ask you all about sort of playing with the audience's expectations. Obviously, you're left till the very end to realize what actually happened, which is so funny. I actually do. Helena, can you tell me about filming that TikTok video with Pete?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much pressure on that moment because Sarah Delep and I, once we came up with the idea, there is no killer, because to me the whole film is basically about, is the killer inside of you or outside of you, right? And I love that it has this hedonistic, nihilistic, much ado about nothing ending, and the bubble is totally deflated and there's just nothing. I think that's great. You know, that's for me, that's the key into this film, into a slasher film.
Yeah.
So once we created that, we wrote it all down on paper, and of course that's pretty easy to do. You're like, okay, well, this is great. You know, he kills himself out of vanity, and it's this TikTok, vain, ego, masculine, toxic killing. But then to do it, to actually do it, is everybody was so nervous, and there was a stunt team, there were the special effects people, everybody was there, and then all eyes were on Pete, you know, to make it happen. And it's physically pretty hard to do. And the stuntman, he did it for him. He's like, look, this is how it goes, you know, to actually kill yourself with a sword while you're open. How the fuck? And I was like, Sarah, please, what the fuck? And she wasn't there. And it was really hard, and it was really literally nerve-wracking. But in the end, we got there, and I remember everybody applauding because it was just a relief. Because we knew when we saw it, we knew, okay, we can get away with it. And then of course you have the moment where you see it for the first time with some people in a screening.
Yeah.
I died. Because it was like, what if people say that's ridiculous? Yeah. Nobody's gonna believe that. So yeah, every time we witness it, I'm still like, and then when you hear people, I'm like, yes.
For Maria Myha'la, what was it like sort of playing in that slasher zone where, as an audience, we don't know if your characters are actually the killers or not? Obviously you do, but can you talk about sort of playing with those expectations and what the challenges are for an actor to do so?
I don't know, does the characters actually feel like this way? Do we thinking it? I'm gonna start over again. So if we think from characters' point of view, I don't think any of our characters thinks that we need to people be suspicious of us, are we the killer or not. But through the whole night, I feel like all of these characters somehow subconsciously start asking themselves, did I did something? Because somehow the place, the night, the storm, everything makes you go crazy somehow. And I feel that's kind of like the blurred line between we as actors going to play these characters and the characters actually experiencing this through the whole night. We got like blurred. Did our character did something wrong? Is he guilty? Was the reason for this to happen? At least that's how I thought.
Yeah, I think also like the suspicion, oh, it's this person, oh, it's that person, like that is Helena's job. Helena creates the suspense in the way that it's cut, and we, as the characters, are just after our own goals. We're not thinking about the audience and how they're going to perceive us at all. Otherwise, the movie would probably be bad. But yeah, it's. I mean, I can speak for myself, but I think this is true for all of us. We were all focused on our own characters' personal wants and desires, our objectives. Wow, I'm an actor. You know, like what we wanted in the moment, and then the way it's all cut together, the anxiety builds in the audience because then it does cut. We do sort of look to the side and who could it be, and that makes us look even more suspicious, you know. But that's not something that we think about as we're doing it. That's not our job.
I think we talked a lot about how, even though this film is of course completely absurd, you know, but we did look for the honesty, you know, even though it's absurd and even though it's a slasher, we all know what's going to happen, you know, everybody's going to die, but still within that ritual we were, and we also know it has to be funny, but still we want to seek for honesty. So they are both totally right. Like I did not ever want them to play like a you know, no. I would ask, for instance, Lee in the big basketball court scene where the movie sort of shifts and we actually see Maria, you know, become violent. I did ask Lee to play it one time, like play it completely innocent, and now please channel Jack Nicholson in The Shining, and now please, you know. So I would later, of course, know that in the editing room I would have options. Because I do have to admit that even though I'm always talking about animalistic acting and Cassavetes, at the same time I was doing this mathematical puzzle, of course, trying to get my not so rational brain to become very rational, because that's a murder mystery, because of course it's way more murder mystery than horror in my mind, you know?
Yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit about what the process was like working with the guys? Like, there are these sort of intense sort of female performances, these intense female friendships, and then like you add these two sort of male characters in who are sort of at the outskirts. What were their interactions with you? What was it like sort of in bringing their characters into everything?
First of all, I want to point out, because I think it's so funny, that they are all the same height, all the women, and the men are super tall.
And I didn't even think about that.
No, and we didn't know because we never really, we when we were casting, it was all in hardcore COVID times, it was also, anyway. I of course, I mean, the men die first, you know, we make a little soft statement about toxic masculinity here and there. So, you know, but we keep it light, keep it fun. Yeah. But, and I have a thing, maybe people who see Instinct know that, about masculinity. I think it's really interesting, it's also sexy if two men, you know, go head to head. And we sort of try to create that in those scenes. But also, yeah, the addiction, like Emma is obviously addicted to the character of David, and she's like a dolphin who beaches herself. You know, we base it a little bit on Ophelia, and again, I don't want to be pretentious at all, but you know, those are my references. So yeah, so we of course laughed a lot with the men and laughed at them, but at the same time, Craig's character, the older guy, he's the outsider, and I'm his age, you know, so I totally identify with him when he says like, how do you play? I constantly felt that with them. I'm like, what are you doing? Is this a TikTok? So I think it's also nice for people who are not so young, that they have at least one person that they can relate to, you know. I think it's really funny. Because he tries to keep up with you guys, but he really, and he tries to stay open to you at all times, even though he gets knocked out.
I think we have time, we're gonna wrap up, but I just wanted to ask, to close out, like, how did the satire of these intensely privileged people sort of resonate with all of you? I mean, obviously, Maria, you're sort of coming in, your character's coming in from outside of that, but how did that resonate with you?
Well, I pretty much resonate with my character because of that, because I'm also coming from the outside. I'm coming from a different country, different continent, so I am pretty new to the United States of America and the groups of friendships that exist over here. So that's kind of the easiest part. But that group that we see in the movie is very privileged group. So I don't know, how did your character relate to that?
I mean, I first read this and I was like, damn, that's funny and that's real. I think like there's like this quintessential element of youth culture that is hyper awareness and like honesty with a touch of like just there's like not, I mean, I clearly don't have the vocabulary to say what that means, but it's like about roasting yourself and being hypercritical about like things that other people might say, like, oh, I don't want to admit about that, or they might point out that's like wrong about you, but they're like, yeah, I'm like privilege queen, or you know what I mean? It's like meme culture, and it's something about being this like hyper honest, aware self that is somehow, when you're using all this like heightened language, that is like somehow avoiding any kind of accountability. But we love that. We love you know what I mean? We love like an honest queen who's like not actually taking any responsibility for herself. I found it really funny. I personally love to be roasted. Gen Z culture is roastable. But the thing that I respect and loved the most about this script and this film is that it wasn't just like, oh, someone said Gen Z loves to say on fleek and purr. It wasn't that. Like, all of the language comes from a place of intellect. They are clever, young, smart people. They're using a kind of language that just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't have deep meaning. So I felt actually quite seen by the script, because I was like, we use our words intentionally, not just for fluff. And thank you, Sarah DeLapp, for that. I think that was one of the most touching things about a film with this age group. I was impressed by her.
Totally agree. We never want to make fun of that group. We are all in the time that we live in. And of course, we also are self-deprecating with this film, but we don't want to undermine it in any way. We don't. We just want to show and keep a mirror onto ourselves as well.
Well, great. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for being here, I would say. Is it over?